Recording in
Welcome to this lecture video. So today we will be talking about methods of inference. So in the identifying four possible methods that you have to use or you have to apply in your problem is, of course, we have to consider the following. So first, we have to consider three things. Number one, you have to go back to your problem. So what is your problem all about? So does it require inferential stat or it simply require descriptive statistics? Number two, how many variables are involved? What is the level of measurement of your variable? Or in other words, we are concerned about the nature of your data. So you must also be aware of the nature of your data in terms of the number of variables involved, and of course, what is the level or the scale of measurement of your variable. Number three, you also need to consider the shape of the distribution. So for the shape of the distribution, so you have to be aware whether your data is normally distributed or not. Or in other words, this is what we call as skewed. So we actually need to consider this before we can decide if our data and our problem is solvable using inferential statistics. And what are the different methods of statistical inference? So in the problem, so for the nature of your problem might be about the differences, so or rather comparison. So what is your objective? Is it to compare? Number two, is your problem about determining for relationship or correlation? So is it number three, determining for possible predictors, or if there is a significant influences? Okay, so if you will, just for instance, you are going to answer a problem that is about comparison or differences. So it is possible that you will be using t-test for one sample. So of course, this again has some conditions that we need to assess before we can use the test. So this test that I am mentioning is an example of parametric test. So it is applied if our data is at least interval. So of course you are aware of what is interval because we're done with that particular topic. And then if you wanted to compare your sample mean compared with a population mean, or do you want to compare two groups? So that is t-test 4. It can be that this two group is independent. So it can also be that you wanted to compare paired samples or two groups which are related to each other. We call it as t-test for paired sample. Or if you will compare later variables that will involve more than two, so that is 3 or more. So we can also use one-way Anova. So this is for comparison of 3 or more independent samples. While if it is comparison of 3 or more. So just like for t-test for paired samples, so we are also comparing for 2. So here we are going to use repeated measures Anova. So this is for 3 or more dependent samples. For correlation, if again, we will just limit it into parametric test. So we can use here Pearson R. While for predictors, an example is the simple linear regression. Or if you will include more than one independent variable, so that is multiple linear regression. So these are the possible methods of a statistical inference that you can use for your data. So always remember the 3 things first that you need to consider, and of course the assumptions of the different tests before using the test. So we are going to have more about discussion more about this separately in a separate video. So thank you for listening.